know we didn't get into it this evening with our two libertarians, but
about what, single payer?
About single payer.
Well, that's the thing. You know what?
It is the only solution.
It is, but there's no need to talk when we're talking about forming an anti-war coalition. We don't need to be talking about single payer with them.
I'm assuming, Henry, that's true, and if it is,
it might be.
But
cool. Soft White Underbelly is actually a really good documentary channel on YouTube, and he talks to some really interesting people.
So here's what Mr. Piana had to say about working behind the scenes in the pharma
we got
industry.
this from Wendell Potter.
Attending a meeting, the ASCO meeting, American Society of Clinical Oncology. It's the largest cancer organization in the world, about 40,000 members, very powerful, very politically connected. And at this time, I'm attending the meeting, and they have what they're called poster sessions. The poster session, now this is the size of a football field, this arena it's in, the poster session. And it's lined with posters that are 4 foot by 6 foot up on posts. So they're just straight line. The posters are essentially abstracts. They consolidate what was presented at the meeting, what the particular person presented. And I was walking by this one, and it was presented by Amgen, the pharmaceutical giant, and it was for this drug called Aranesp. And I had what I call the Toto moment, like in The Wizard of Oz, when Toto pulled the curtain and he saw the fake wizard. As I was walking by, the famous oncologist named John Glaspie, tall, imposing man, was talking to his associate. And he said verbatim, "What we need is a drug that fucking works." And that got me. And our eyes glanced a little bit, and we went off. I kept on my way. And so Aranesp is a drug. It's called an ESA, an erythropoietin-stimulating agent. Erythropoietin is a hormone produced in the kidneys that stimulates red blood cell growth in the bone marrow. It became famous. That's what Lance Armstrong did. An EPO drug, that's what he got busted for in the Tour de France. So it's used to treat anemia. And Amgen got it approved for chemotherapy-induced anemia. Okay, it was a very difficult approval because it's a growth factor. And anytime you enter a growth factor into the cancer setting, because cancer is unregulated cellular growth, there are many problems. One of the expert panel it was leaked that he said, I hope we're not approving miracle grow for cancer. Okay, but they did approve it. But Amgen wasn't satisfied with that market. They wanted a blockbuster, another blockbuster. Now, in cancer lingo, a blockbuster is a drug that generates at least $1 billion per year. So they wanted the other market in cancer, the bigger market, fatigue. Cancer fatigue is the most dreaded symptom cancer patients have, even more so than pain, because pain can be treated with opioids. Cancer fatigue, there's no treatment for it. And it's not like being totally exhausted, like, oh, I'm exhausted. It's cancer fatigue takes you into an otherworldly sense. The world outside you is moving at one speed and you're locked in place. It's soul-searing. So any drug that helps this would be a blockbuster. The problem was that Aranesp didn't work. Okay. Instead, but the FDA still approved it, and Amgen began direct consumer marketing of this drug that had very dangerous side effects for cancer fatigue. So later on that night, I went down to the hotel bar, and I'd seen the Amgen sales reps, and these are very slippery people. They're mechanisms, okay? I mean, they're just simply mechanisms working for the company. I was there and talking and listening to them, and I'd done some amateur boxing when I was a kid, young guy, and they were talking about boxing. So I made a correction. I corrected it. It wasn't Marvin Hagler, one of these things, just to sidle up and have a conversation. So we started talking with this guy named Tom, and I dropped in as an aside, said, wow, you guys hit another home run with Aranesp, blockbuster. He said, yeah. He said, the docs love it. They can't get enough of this shit. I said, why? And he said, well, it's $2,600 an injection, in-office injection. Bang, $2,600. Bang, $2,600. He said, they're making a fortune. We just can't get enough of this stuff to them. So I waited a little bit, and then sort of jokingly, I said, yeah, but it doesn't work. And I'll never forget, he paused for effect. And he said, if you're putting your kids through Stanford and looking at a waterfront property in Malibu, it works. And my spine just cringed. That was my tipping point when I realized that the incestuous relationship between pharma and the oncology community, the healers, had been so corrupted by their money that everything had fallen off the cliff.
Let me be very clear. Cancer is extremely profitable. And the longer you can string people along that are sick, their goal, just so you know, pharma goal is to keep people alive, but chronically ill.
Correct.
That's the goal. The goal is to keep people on dialysis. The goal is to keep people, the medications
Yes.
that they have are for chronic. They want you to be chronically into that. So they're not trying to help. They're just trying to profit off of the sickness. And I do know, did I tell you I temped Eli Lilly for a short period of time?
No.
I was a temp at Eli Lilly when we were living in Indianapolis, when Jason was in med school. And I temped for like a 6-week period of time for this department in the marketing department for a new pancreatic cancer drug called Gemzar at the time. So this was back in like 94-ish. And, I remember reading a lot of the information that they were like backing it with, and the clinical stuff and the trials and all this stuff. And the conclusion that people basically came to was it doesn't really work, but it might buy you a few months. And they were out marketing that. And by the way, the months that it would buy you were miserable. That's the other thing. It wasn't like it bought you some good months.
My late grandmother, who you met,
Yeah.
had type 1 diabetes and was an unhealthy person for most of her life. And on the one hand, I do blame the individual because it is their choice to live a healthy life versus not live a healthy life. On the other hand, Big Pharma they're vultures of the worst kind. They prey on the sick, they prey on the weak, and they prey on the naive.
And can we throw in the NGOs? Let me tell you something. The Race for the Cure, all of those curing organizations, all of that stuff, those are arms of Big Pharma. You're donating to the same thing twice. So essentially, our collective resources pays those pharma companies for all their R&D. We subsidize it. We pay all the money for them to come up with that, right? Then they rape us on the back end by exorbitant prices and all of that stuff. These people, they're not about curing or helping.
No, it's about prolonging.
About profit.
And I was going to mention dope sick, but Bella's correct. Purdue Pharma patented a non-addictive opioid painkiller so that no one could ever produce it. And again, the whole point is to keep you on there and paying, but also upping the dosage so that you are addicted forever, that you can never get off it.
But that brings up an important point that we do not talk about enough, that I think is a component that some people who really know their shit understand. We need to deal with the patent laws in this country.
Good luck with that one.
Well, that's a huge part of the pharma problem. I do believe is the way that they control the patents in this country. And that is something that we can have control over.
Now, the big difference here between what's going on with the Israel lobby versus Big Pharma and private insurance, which are the biggest lobbyists on all of Capitol Hill, and the reason they have to lobby and the mirror distinctions between the two that they share is that they have to spend all of this money because what they're offering isn't necessary. It's just something they want because they figured out a way to commodify it and make billions upon billions, if not trillions of dollars. You think anybody's just going to give that up?
No, but people piggyback on it. So that's then what happens. So then you get organizations like Susan G. Komen and all of those NGOs that basically then just exist to support their payroll. And
Hell,
they just sit there and profit.
Even Planned Parenthood is
all
guilty of it.
All of those NGOs get to this size where they're but see, here's the difference. Planned Parenthood actually is clinics and services, actually does provide services.
Oh, they
Whereas the Race for the Cure is literally just an entire slush fund of fundraising money that ends up just going to subsidy. Like, It's such a mess. And all I know is those organizations are not solving anything.
That's a good one, Bella. I like
Yeah,
it.
that is a good border